Grew up, became man,
working pretty much on the blank canvas.
So what do you want to know?
See those good people turn their heads each day, so satisfied on my way.
Yes, history is pretty complicated, so without going into it too deeply, this lineup did about 3 albums in the 70s together and was really the most consistent live lineup we had.
Let's get together and make a live album, and while we're rehearsing we'll write some new songs, because that's a natural thing.
I love nostalgia, I'm terrible for it, and I really did enjoy doing the shows and enjoy playing the pieces.
Originally it was a matter of putting the band back together from the 70s, and I think when everybody started playing again together it felt pretty good, and it was like a meeting of old souls.
The organic versions, yes.
I was actually writing songs with Chris Squire. Now we started Yes in 1968. And we've known each other for 25 years, which is kind of a long time. This is 2 years ago, so now it's like we've known each other for 27 years. Still a long time. And because, you know, we started bonded again. You know, we bonded when we first started Yes, and then we went through the success and various incarnations of Yes.
In the giving of my eyes to see your face, sounded silence me, leaving no trace. I beg to leave to hear your wondrous stories. Beg to hear your wondrous stories. La la la.
The first I knew about it really was that John called me and said, what about doing something again with Yes, and you and Rick coming back? So, you know, obviously Rick and I saw that as, you know, an opportunity not to be missed and to give it a try.
When we were on stage back in earlier in the year, it did seem strange. In one respect, it did seem like 18 years. In other respects, it was like 18 years, isn't it? No, it didn't seem that long. No, it doesn't seem that long. Time travels by quickly when you get older.
We didn't want an iffy lineup. We wanted a sort of lineup that was, we could, you know, put our hand on our hearts and say, you know, this stands a good chance of weathering storms, because, you know, it isn't plain sailing in any rock band. You know, you have to get schedules and you have to get everything right, and you have to get the mixing, you have to get the management. There's an awful lot of things you try and get right, and obviously the more experienced you are, the harder it is to do that.
Look right away, close to the edge, down by a river. Look right away.
I said to Chris, why don't we get Rick in the band? Why don't we get Steve together and see if he wants to come and join the band? And the only real way to do that would be, say, let's do a recording, not only of some new music, but of the old music we really loved in the 70s. So that was the plan.
Down to the edge, close by the river, close to the edge, round by the corner. Close to the edge, round by the corner, down to the edge, close by the river.
My immediate suspicion was that when they asked us to do this live album, I thought, oh my God, they just want us to do another version of like the best known songs. And so I think we actually went out of our way to try and find some of the songs that we had played in the past, or some that we only just done in the studio, and to do live versions of them.
I had this sort of idea, rather than try to do a live show in front of a lot of people, which could be dangerous, because if you're on tour as a group, within a couple of weeks you're really good, and for the rest of the tour you're very, very good. But just to do one show or two shows, you know, actually can be a dangerous thing, because you might not play that well. So I said, why don't we just do a local show in this cinema? It's called the Fremont. It's a sort of Art Nouveau, but to get everybody to come to where I was living, which is this beautiful town called San Luis Obispo in California, was like a little bit like pulling teeth. You know, you ask them to come, they say they'll come to LA, they'll come to New York, but San Luis Obispo is like, no, why should we come there?
So last October we started rehearsing, and then for a month we worked on the old material and some of the new material, and then continued it in February, and then did the shows in March. So it's taken a while to get the mixing and all of this bit together, and here we are in October.
Yeah, it seems as if the reaction to all of it is like I said before, is like a meeting of friends again, and there's just some kind of magic from that era of time that we're recreating again.
The ardent fans got their finger out. We didn't give them much warning. We didn't really make it like an easy going. We just kind of put the dates on like 2 weeks before.
Yeah.
And said, well, we're going to do it now, and that's all there is to it.
And they put it on the internet, so it went out to Japan and places like that, and we had people flying in from Japan, and we also kept tickets for people in San Luis Obispo and stuff like that. So it was like a family gathering, basically. But you can hear that in the record, I think, because I think the band also got into the atmosphere of all that.
John likes to dream up ideas. He's pretty much ideas based.
That's good.
A couple of us said, well, we really like it, but couldn't we just call it kind of Keys for short, you know? And that didn't go down too well. So I think the feeling of the, you know, Keys to Ascension obviously sort of stuck. And I think that's partly because we all like the Keys bit. We seem to have a, you know, a comparison to us. Keys opening up, you know, what we are. And
Doorway to the future. I think we wanted to recreate pieces that have never been recorded live before to a degree. So Revealing Science of God and is something they've never been done properly. Okay, so we tended to aim for those kind of pieces, so the fans would get their fair share.
If you go to a Frank Sinatra concert and he doesn't sing My Way, you go home extremely disappointed. It's true. And it's like if people come to a Yes concert and they don't hear Roundabout. To a lot of extent, we looked at it from the fan base point of view. If truth be known, almost if we were coming along to a show, what would we like to hear? And there were, and we all decided we'd like to hear a lot of Rolling Stones tracks, didn't we? I think, but unfortunately, we don't do them.
It's about everybody in the band being able to create, and an audience watching a group of musicians can enjoy the individuals within the band rather than centering in on one person, which sometimes is what happens in bands. And then it's that one person that sort of leads the band, where I was always in the idea that everybody in the band is so important. So putting together Rick and making sure that Steve was around was very critical, because as it happened, when we started rehearsing, we started playing songs from the 70s that we hadn't really had a, shall we say, we didn't have a great time recording these songs. We knew they were good pieces of music, but we knew that if they were recorded and put on stage, they'd get better. We did this album in 1974 called Tales from Topographic Oceans, and the first movement is Revealing, and it's on the new album. And actually re-recording that and doing it live 20 years later was like an incredible realization that we were doing something very good at that time. At that time, we went through hell to do that music, both critically and from a musical point of view. It was pretty good, but the recording wasn't the best recording in the world. But this new recording is like, I don't know, it makes you feel really proud that you actually hung in for 20 years to re-record it.
One of the things that was nice for me, probably more so than for Chris. Am I keeping you up, Chris? I'm sorry.
No,
more so than for Chris and for Steve, was keyboard technology has come on such a long way in the last 18 years. I was able to actually do things sound-wise that I always wanted to be able to do and couldn't do back in the past. So it was a chance really to really play these pieces in ways that I wanted to play them.
I think this album would be great for people who don't know Yes. And if anybody's never heard of Yes, getting these two albums is like a sort of baptism into the world of where we are, at least anyway.
Loneliness is a power that we possess to give or take away forever.
I think the band has always been on the leading edge. There's not very many bands that cover Yes songs, so it's kind of like it's an area we're in by ourselves, so it's very hard to kind of put us in one bag. But progressive rock is as good as anything.
We never really felt that any term really ever fit us. I think Rick might agree with me, or he might not, but when we first went to America, we found that we were a rock and roll band. I think we were a bit confused, because we up until then, we'd been bred on the Beatles, and we thought we were sort of like pop artists a bit, you know, who developed the form a little bit further. And then all of a sudden we go to America, oh, you're the greatest rock band that's ever come over here.
Yeah.
And we were going, oh, rock and roll. Well, I was Elvis Presley.
Well, I was confused because I thought rock and roll, see, rock and roll was something that you tap your feet to, and you can only tap your feet to that stuff if you're epileptic.
I think progressive rock was a statement that was more palatable than post psychedelic, because in a way psychedelic music just you would think just ended about 1968, but it didn't. It became progressive. Those ideas, those experiences, whether it was Indian music, classical music, you know, all the things that psychedelic music allowed us to draw into our music, you know, had to find a way of coming out. And I think, yes, Genesis, Floyd and ELP, those four bands, King Crimson and a few more, Gentle Giants and so many more really, but you know, the leaders we all took our own influences from the accessibility of music that happened really in 1967.
It just
whole thing opened up.
At that particular time in the 70s, Roger Dean did artwork for many bands, but the interesting thing was it was the first time that the general public actually equated covers with music, and it just seemed that what Roger was doing was very much in tune visually with what we were doing musically.
As he spoke, my spirit climbed into the sky. I need to return to hear your wondrous stories. Return to hear your wondrous stories. Return to hear your wondrous stories.
I met Phil Carson, who was the MD of Atlantic for Europe and England, and he said that he'd like me to do some work for him, and he only had two bands at the time, Led Zeppelin and Yes, and he introduced me to Yes, and it was, for me, I think, for other people, I think it worked. The first album I did for them was Fragile, which was 1970 or 71, a while back. Yeah. Very often the cover had to be finished at least at the same time as the music, if not before. One talked about ideas, and the imagery came about from that imperfect thing when somebody has a verbal idea and someone else has a verbal idea. It's mostly paintings, and they're big paintings. This painting is 6 foot by 4 foot. It's a big painting. No concession to the size of the CD.
I think yes, he's doing it right this time round, in as much as it would have been very easy to, not that Yes does rush into the studio, but it would be nice for the, a lot of people thought we were going to the studio, knock out a quick studio album, you know, cop a quick buck or whatever it was, and do a quick tour, and that's it. Yes always has long-term plans, and I think by doing, you know, the half live or 2/3 live with some studio stuff, it gives us a chance to sort of really to remember how we used to play together, also to remember the strengths and the weaknesses of the individuals, plus the new sounds and the new experiences that everybody's had.
We have no problems in terms of music. The music is easy. The business is crazy. The business just can really make you a big success, or maybe not. You don't know. But the music is easy to make. It's an enjoyment. And this is what I've learned over the years, is that music is just wonderful. It's a very spiritual thing to me. The business and how it works, and if it's ever going to get on radio, or if anybody's going to ever listen to it. The frustrating thing for me is that people might not get the chance to hear the album. But the interesting thing is, whoever hears it will get it.
I think we've got a general plan that if things are going to go well, we will probably follow through, and obviously we'd all like to go out and play together and make some money and make people happier.
I never make promises I can't keep. It would be a lovely idea if we keep being good to each other, appreciating each other, and not trying to take too much credit for everything.
Sure.
We'll stay together.
Providing Yes is allowed to keep its autonomy and is not pushed by too many outside sources, because that's always been Yes's strength, when it's been allowed to lead itself musically. And I think that it could have some good years of some really good music.
For me, this is the band that was always very successful and played very consistently and was very powerful on stage. There's no reason why we can't do that again.